everyone, and welcome back to another episode of From BA to Broadway. You know who it is. It's me. It's Mr. Brennan, Stefanik, and I'm bringing you your general programming reminders. Folks, every Monday we are here with the main pod, and every Friday, like today, we are here with our mini-series, In the Spotlight. Also, just a reminder, we are going to be doing a live recording at this year's Broadway Con. That's going to be Sunday, February 9th at 10:45 a.m., so make sure you come through and check us out there. Our mystery guest will probably be announced soon. And it's going to be an absolute blast. So come out and we'd love to meet y'all. But that's enough about that. Of course, folks, we are here. It's Friday. I'm not alone. I could never be alone for this. No, I'm here with Mr. Daniel J. Solly. Danny, what is going on?
You're never alone.
You're never alone.
Ever.
Oh my God, you're wearing your shirt.
I am wearing my
sweatshirt.
sweatshirt.
I forgot to put on my shirt. I can't do it now. I'm wearing a sweatshirt.
Okay, next time.
Danny was gifted a custom from BA to Broadway sweatshirt for Christmas.
I was by my sister Melanie. Shout out to Melanie.
Shout out to Melanie.
It's beautiful. From
Number
BA to
one
Broadway
fan of the
sweatshirt.
pod.
It says Daniel J. Solly, and she was like, because he always introduces you as Daniel J. Solly.
That's exactly right.
It's like, that's a true listener.
Also, folks, happy first episode of the new year. This is 2025's first
my
episode.
God.
Yeah.
It is January 3rd.
Thank God. Thank God it's a new year. I'm ready.
Are you?
I'm ready to take on the world.
Okay.
I don't know what that means yet, but
Maybe
yeah.
I am too. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you are.
I'll let you know next year if I found the world this year.
I think it's going to be a great year. I'm having
hope
some
so.
high hopes.
Let's hope.
Okay, rock and roll. Danny, what are we talking about today?
Today's going to be fun.
Oh my
We're
God.
talking about a little show called Passion.
Passion.
Do you know Passion? I don't
Not
think you know
at
Passion.
all.
I love Passion. It's going to be a weird episode. It's a weird show.
Love.
Weird little show with a book by James Lapine and music and lyrics by our very own friend of the pod, Stephen Sondheim.
Indeed. Friend, I don't know if you can say friend of the pod in that regard, Danny.
I mean, you know, when you say it for someone that's like, when I say it about Sondheim, it's so ridiculous. It's funny.
Okay.
No one's going to be like, oh my God, when was Sondheim on?
Literally.
Because, you know,
Yeah.
this
Oh,
podcast happened after
Daniel.
he was gone.
Anywho.
So Passion was adapted from Ettore Scola's 1981 film Passion d'Amore, and its source material, Ignacio Ugo Tarquetti's 1869 novel Fosca, about a young soldier and the changes in him brought about by the obsessive love of Fosca, his colonel's homely ailing cousin. After seeing the movie in 1983, Sondheim came up with the idea, and here's a quote by Sondheim. As Fosca started to speak and the camera cut back to her, I had my epiphany. I realized that the story was not about how she's going to fall in love with him, but about how he is going to fall in love with her. At the same time thinking, they're never going to convince me of that, they're never going to pull that off. All the while knowing they would, that Scola wouldn't have taken on such a ripely melodramatic story unless he was convinced that he could make it plausible. By the end of the movie, the unwritten songs in my head were brimming, and I was certain of two things. First, that I wanted to make it into a musical. The problem being that it couldn't be a musical, not even in my non-traditional style, because the characters were so outsized. Second, that I wanted James Lapine to write it. He was a romantic, he had a feel for different centuries and different cultures, and he was enthusiastically attracted to weirdness.
Hell yeah.
You're like, same.
I'm very much enthusiastically attracted to weirdness.
And
Fun fact.
fun fact, this is one of 3 shows that Sondheim solely conceived of by himself.
Whoa.
The other 2 were Sweeney Todd and Roadshow,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. And I always think of Passion, among his other works, I think people always complain about movie adaptations of musicals.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what we're actually complaining about is lazy adaptations of musicals.
Yeah.
Because Passion is a movie adaptation of a musical.
Mm-hmm.
It's just one that he had actually had a concept of and changed it, as opposed to taking a blockbuster and using the IP for marketing.
For sure.
Which is, I think, the issue that people have with specific movie musicals nowadays.
Yeah.
I just think it's interesting. I'm like, yeah, most of Sondheim's work is conceived elsewhere. They're not original ideas. He's adapting works. He's adapting stories, books, and movies.
I mean, so isn't everyone that's telling stories for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, it's rare you get like a wholly original, you know, I guess something like The Prom or like The Drowsy Chaperone are 2 things that immediately come to mind that are like wholly original pieces.
Well, I mean, The Prom was based on events that happened.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So is it even wholly original? I don't know.
I would call that wholly original in the sense that, like, well, just like you look at a show like Back to the Future.
Yes. Okay, heard.
That's not like an adaptation of the movie. That's taking the IP of something that is like so famous and just using it.
Yeah.
Like, you're not adapting it. I mean, you are adapting it for the stage, but it's not like, oh, I have this reconception of the plot line that I'm going to build upon and do something different with. You're like, oh, it's a successful movie. People want to see it on stage, so I'll take the movie and put it on stage.
For sure.
So I just think that's interesting. You know, like every time you talk about, you know, we consider Sondheim to be the greatest of all time. All of his shows are conceptions of something else. I think he has a couple of like wholly original ideas, but they're mostly from books and movies.
Totally.
Just thought I would just rant for a second.
Thank you for doing so.
Anytime.
Truly.
So I think since a lot of people don't really know Passion, I don't think I'm going to talk about the plot.
Please do.
Because it's a little convoluted and it's weird and dark.
Love.
So the show opens in Milan in 1863 with the song Happiness, detailing a very sexy affair between a handsome captain named Giorgio and his lover Clara. The show opens on probably the most intimate sex scene you'll see in a Broadway show.
Whoa.
It's gorgeous. Like, if you listen to it in the overture, you hear like the orgasm, like the and oh, it's so good. Giorgio is breaking the news to Clara that he has been transferred to a provincial military outpost out of town. And throughout the show, Giorgio and Clara communicate through letters that they send back and forth to one another, talking about their love and how they miss each other. It is at this military outpost that he meets Fosca, who is the sick cousin of his commanding officer. Fosca is described as having a nervous disorder and frequent collapses into seizures. She is considered to be ailing and gross. Giorgio is...
That's a bummer. That's a big bummer.
I know. She is just like a sickly woman that everyone, that, you know, her cousin is taking care of, and everyone is just like, oh, she's upstairs screaming and collapsing. Don't mind her.
Yeah.
And so
Rough.
I know, same. Giorgio is kind to Fosca and connects with her over their shared love of books. And because of this, Fosca begins to fall deeply in love with Giorgio. When he rejects her advances, she falls ill. So attempting to help heal her and make her feel better, Giorgio visits Fosca as she is bedridden, and she begs him to write her a love letter, which he does. She's like, I want you to write me a love letter from you to me. And he writes her this love letter.
Interesting.
Just to make her feel better.
Yeah.
So Fosca slowly worms her way into Giorgio's head, and as he begs her to leave him alone, she explains to him that her love is not a choice, it is who she is, and she would gladly die for him. Eventually, Giorgio is moved by the depth of Fosca's love for him, and realizes he no longer wants to continue his affair with Clara, and that no one has ever loved him so deeply as Fosca.
Whoa.
So he decides he loves Fosca, and even though the physical act may kill her, he goes to her and consummates their relationship.
Does he know that?
Meanwhile,
That's wild.
Georgia,
what are you doing?
His commanding officer finds the love letter that Fosca made him write to her and challenges him to a duel. So,
Why?
because he thinks that he's playing Fosca. Because no one could ever love someone as gross as Fosca. So, They have the duel, and then the show ends with a time jump into the future where we find out that Giorgio is recovering from a mental breakdown, where he is told that Fosca died shortly after their night together, and the colonel has recovered from the wounds inflicted during their duel. And that's how the show ends.
It's unfortunate. That is, that's a dark one.
It's a doozy. It's a doozy of a show.
Wow.
It is a gorgeous, dark, twisted show.
Okay.
The score is absolutely gorgeous and lush. And it has, I mean, Jonathan Tunick did the orchestrations, he did the Sweeney Todd orchestrations.
Yeah.
So you just imagine like that lush, gorgeous orchestral feel is like carried throughout the entire show.
Let me see. Do I know any songs from it?
You probably do. Loving You, I Wish I Could Forget You, Happiness.
Okay.
Those are all like very popular songs from that show.
Gotcha. Okay.
You've probably heard like Loving You in a class or something. That's a popular one for a book.
What is that one? How does it go? Can you can you sing me a few bars?
You know what? Loving you is not a choice. It's who I am. Yeah.
Yes.
You know that one. That's where she's explaining to him.
Understood.
Loving you is not a choice. It's who I am.
Whoa.
It gives me reason. It gives me purpose.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if someone's saying that to you, I don't know. You might fall in love with that.
Sold. Sold.
You heard it here, folks.
Yeah. Send that fan mail, baby.
Even if one night of intimacy could kill ya.
Yep.
So, so Passion opened at Broadway. Passion opened
At Broadway.
at Broadway.
At Symbol Broadway.
Passion opened on Broadway at the Plymouth Theater on May 9th, 1994, and closed on January 7th, 1995.
Oh.
The cast starred Jerry Shea as Giorgio, Donna Murphy, a friend of the pod, as Fosca, and Marin Maisie as Clara. It only ran for 280 performances, making it the shortest running musical ever to win the Tony Award for Best Musical.
That's wild.
And Donna Murphy was obviously acclaimed and won Best Actress for her portrayal of Fosca.
Mm-hmm.
It was luckily professionally filmed right after they closed, so you can watch a professional recording of the original cast of Passion. And if you ever listen to this podcast, you know how I'm obsessed with Donna Murphy, and this is why I'm obsessed with Donna Murphy.
Understood.
You have never seen a performance so beautiful and nuanced as Donna Murphy in Passion. It is gorgeous. I mean, her and Marin Maisie together, the late great Marin Maisie, are just like, first of all, that's the show that they met. They became best friends. They were best friends till the day Marin Maisie died. It's brilliant. It is such a good production. Highly recommend watching it. I think you can probably find it on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good, and she is so good. And fun fact, they originally offered the role of Fosca to Patti LuPone.
Whoa.
But she turned it down because they offered it to her right when she was leaving for London to star in Sunset Boulevard.
Oh, okay.
Which we know happened with Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
Crazy. Do you know that story? I think I told that story in this podcast, actually.
Oh, yeah. And
Mhm.
she got the can.
So she got canned from Sunset Boulevard.
Yeah.
So she's probably kicking herself she didn't do Passion. But thank God she didn't, because now we have Donna Murphy.
That's so true.
And then in 2013, Classic Stage Company mounted a production of Passion, making it their first time ever producing a musical. Prior to that, they had only ever done plays. And this was directed by John Doyle, their resident director. And this production starred Judy Kuhn as Fosca, Melissa Errico as Clara, and Ryan Silverman as Giorgio. I think there's actually a professional recording of Judy Kuhn as Fosca, and she is also wonderful. Another Broadway dame that we know and love.
Of course.
And then, a couple years later, actually, no, this was before that. We got a semi-staged concert starring Patti LuPone as Fosca, finally. Michael Cerveris as Giorgio, and Audra McDonald as Clara at Lincoln Center in 2005.
Wow.
And that production, was that 2005 or 15? I think I forgot the one. I think it was 2015. Whatever. No one really cares about the date. That production was also professionally filmed.
Gotcha.
So you can also watch productions of that,
That's awesome.
which I highly recommend, because Patti LuPone plays a very different Fosca.
I would imagine.
Yeah, hers is like sickly. But
Sickly and
I also
gross.
I think it's so interesting too that this Passion is such a widely recorded show. Like every time we get a professional production, they record it,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like not very successful.
Yeah.
Which I think goes to show that the musical was critically acclaimed and
Yeah.
admired by everyone, but it was not a hit with theatergoers, especially when it first opened. When they first started performing on Broadway, audiences were repelled by Fosca. They would applaud whenever Fosca had a meltdown.
No.
And in one performance, someone from the audience started screaming, "Die, Fosca, die."
Oh my God.
And so Sondheim's thesis for the show is that the force of somebody's feelings for you can crack you open, and how it is the life force in a dead-end world. And his response to the audience hostility early on in the run was that the story struck some audiences as ridiculous. They refused to believe that anyone, much less the handsome Giorgio, could come to love someone so manipulative and relentless, not to mention physically repellent as Fosca.
Wow.
As the perennial banality would have it, they couldn't identify with the main characters. The violence of their reaction, however, strikes me as an example of the lady doth protest too much. I think they may have identified with Giorgio and Fosca all too readily and uncomfortably.
Yeah.
The idea of a love that's pure, that burns with D.H. Lawrence's gem-like flame, emanating from a source so gnarled and selfish, is hard to accept. Perhaps they were reacting to the realization that we are all Fosca, we are all Giorgio, we are all Clara.
I was going to say, if you can't recognize a toxic relationship, you might be in one, folks.
Yeah, or you just don't want the mirror held up.
Yeah.
And you know.
Exactly. The manipulator, you know?
Yeah, and I think it also harkens back to this idea that I think people have this conversation a lot when shows come out, and when like the main character is not necessarily like a good person,
Yes.
or not necessarily not just like an overarchingly good person
For
who
sure.
like who's moral and does all the right things all the time.
Yes.
People freak out a little bit,
Mhm.
and it's like nowhere in the show do I think Sondheim says, "Hey, see all this stuff that Fosca's doing? You
Yeah.
should do it too."
Exactly.
You know, it's like
They're not like, this is a hero, everybody. Can't you tell? No.
Yeah, I'm always like confused when people have that kind of a conversation.
Stories can be about bad people.
Yeah, I remember people love to dunk on like Dear Evan Hansen about that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can have your opinions on Dear Evan Hansen. I'm not saying it's a perfect show,
Mhm.
but whenever people are like, he's not a great guy,
Yeah.
I'm always like,
And?
yeah, I don't know. The whole show is about him making up a lie.
Yeah.
I don't think they were positing him as like something that we should all emanate.
Totally.
Just like it's an interesting phenomenon that happens with shows, I think.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't think we should all be like Fosca. But you know what? Sometimes you're the Fosca.
Sometimes you're gross and weird.
And I'm so obsessed with the idea that she is just like, anytime someone talks about this show, they're like, the ugly, the ailing, the gnarled, the disgusting Fosca.
Damn. Poor thing.
I know, but it's just, I think I know that I love the show so well. There was like a lot of scenes. I think my professor in college loved Passion because he would assign people a lot of different scenes in class to do it. So I know the show very well, and I've seen a lot of the scenes dissected.
Understood.
And, you know, I think I am showing my age right now, but I'm going to tell a funny story about how the BA Fed programs of yesteryear and how... So the show opens with a song called Happiness.
Yes.
And it's literally like Giorgio and Clara in bed together having sex, singing this like, it's a gorgeous song, this gorgeous love ballad. And that was a song that got assigned in my college program a lot.
Okay.
In our Scene to Song class. And so whoever was randomly assigned that song, a Giorgio and a Clara, they were instructed to, get undressed to your level of comfort of undressing. There was a mattress on the floor, and they had to get on the floor on top of each other in front of their whole class and sing the song while pretending to have sex. And then they got notes on it.
That feels like one of those ones where you say, hey, this is a really great scene. Do we have any volunteers? Rather than...
I mean, look, it was a different time.
Yeah.
10 years ago was a different time.
Yeah.
I don't think that would fly today. But when we were like, yeah, that's obviously, you got to sign the scene. Get naked.
Yeah.
So, like,
that's, oof. That's big oof.
I was listening. I was listening to the soundtrack today just because I knew we were going to do the show. And I texted my friends that. I was like, does anyone randomly just remember when people got assigned the song and had to just get naked? And they were all just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
Like that literally happened. Like, that is wild. I was like, if that happened in the year 2024, it would be on the news. That level of just like uncare and just like, like that. Hopefully that doesn't happen anymore.
For sure.
Just I literally felt ancient. I was like, oh my God.
College theater programs are crazy.
Especially because we didn't question it. We literally didn't question it.
Well, that's because you have a bunch of young, impressionable actors that think that you have to do whatever it takes to get ahead. And these are the professionals in the industry. So we got to listen to them because they know what's best and that our future lays in their hands.
And I'm so not even like, I don't know. Like, I'm not even like, oh, that scene should never be done by college kids. But it just like the way it was like done.
Yeah.
It's like so wild. Looking back on it now with like the reckoning I think we've all had since then and how things have changed and how we deal with theater intimacy. It's just wild where it's like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Even like it's probably 8 to 10 years ago. I don't even know. That was very different.
For sure.
Very different.
It's like, it's just wild looking back at like how many just like scenes in class you're assigned where like you're just making out with your fellow students in front of your above the age of 40 professor. It's always at least once a class you will get a scene in which you got to kiss someone. That's wild.
Yeah.
Damn. I'm trying to think if I ever had to like take off my clothes in college.
I was not assigned that scene, and I would not have. I don't know what I would have done, but I'm not the one to do that.
There might have been an instance where I had to do like a change on stage, but I don't even remember what I did for it. Interesting. Regardless, theater school,
Wild time.
Yeah.
Wild time. And sometimes you just remember. I literally, like, Happiness started playing in my headphones, and I was like transported back in time. I was like, oh my God.
Yikes.
That was crazy. And just like to add another level of hilarity is like, we were all doing different scenes, so everyone was just wearing different costumes from different Sondheim shows.
Oh my God.
Like, just watching this happen.
Whoa.
We should do
what a tableau that must have been.
Honestly,
that would have
I
been
could
like
just
a
like
biblical painting.
Like the Last Supper, but of like all of us wearing different stupid costumes.
It's two people having sex in front of a blood-covered Sweeney Todd. Little Red Riding Hood.
We definitely had a Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh my God.
A bunch of us were doing
so
like
funny.
scenes from Follies, so we were dressed as like old people. It like and you know that we thought we were doing
the
most
Lord's work,
serious work you could do.
Of course.
We were like, we are Sondheim actors.
Yeah.
Thank you. And like people were doing other scenes from Passion. So some girls were dressed like Fosca. So they were just like gross.
Oh.
They like made themselves look like sickly and like ailing.
Oh no.
So like those girls were sitting in class too with their like shawls around them,
Yeah.
like a mole. Oh man, we got to do like an oil canvas of that scene of like.
Oh my God. Wow. Wild.
A wild time.
This sounds like one of those shows that it's like the occasional weird one that nobody really asked for that just it kind of comes along and is really good.
Yeah, it is
Feels
one
like,
of those.
like a Kimberly Akimbo where it's kind of like, never would have asked for this specifically. This is pretty strange, but
like, wow, Sondheim, you know, like we thought you were fucked up from Sweeney Todd, but then you said, hold my beer and
literally
wrote Passion.
Yeah. You think I can't one up myself?
Okay.
Stay tuned.
And it was part of his, you know, like he had shows like every decade. And I feel like the 70s and 80s are where we get most of like the huge Sondheim hits.
Yeah.
You know, the bulk of his work were in the 70s and 80s. And the 90s is kind of his like lesser known works.
Mm-hmm.
Like the 90s was like Passion, The Frogs, Roadshow.
Mm-hmm.
And like that stuff never really took hold in the zeitgeist, I feel like, in the way that like obviously Sweeney Todd and like those are just like standards. And I understand why you should watch Passion. You'll get it. You're like, this is, I get it why it was not commercially successful.
Yes.
But it actually is such a brilliant show. It is like so, I don't know. It's like inventive and creepy and dark.
It sounds like one of those shows that you really have to sell your friends on to try and get them to see it.
Yeah,
you're like, this is a plot, but no. I swear it's good. I swear it's really good.
Just go in blind.
Yeah.
Like it's a show that I think, you know, I don't know if it'll ever have another Broadway production. I think maybe it exists better in like a classic stage sense where it's like a little bit smaller and a little bit more for a dedicated theater audience than like a commercially successful venue.
Yeah.
I could see us getting like a really good, what is it, like the encores at City Center?
Yeah.
I mean, because it's really about Fosca and like who's going to play Fosca. And it's just like one of those roles where you're going to get, you know, a Donna Murphy, a Judy Kuhn, a
Patti LuPone.
A Patti. Like I don't know who could be up. Oh, Laura Benanti would be a good Fosca.
Oh.
There's a really funny video because she's like a little old soul.
Yeah.
And so she has this really funny story where she's like, I was like a total musical theater nerd my entire life. When I was in high school, I was Fosca for Halloween.
Not Halloween.
And nobody knows what the hell that is or what that means. And so I don't know. I think it was like a Broadway World collab or whatever, but there's a really funny video of her dressing up as Fosca and going around Times Square and singing to people like the music of Passion.
That's wild.
And there's just there's something so funny about Passion because it's so dark and random that it I mean, even like in our college program, like Passion kind of became a joke.
Yeah.
It was like a meme. We're like Passion, like
Heard.
Stephen Sondheim's Passion, like just a random show to like get obsessed with.
Yeah.
But I mean, look, there are some beautiful ballads in the show.
Yes. Some of them were sung in my Sondheim class. That's why I'm starting to realize this. And there's you can make some really great cuts also.
Yeah.
This is a lesser known work, I would say, for sure. So get those niche ballads in there, girly pops.
Fosca's got a lot of great ballads. You could probably even find like a soprano E. Clara song. You could probably find a Giorgio cut. He doesn't have as much to do as the other two. But I really, really could not recommend more watching that original Broadway cast recording. It is just like chef's kiss. The three of them, like Jerry Shea, Donna, and Marion. My girls, Donna and Marion.
Besties.
We have a group chat. It's called the Sondheim Girlies.
Yes.
It is just like the best of the best.
Yeah.
You know, when you're just like, wow, they nailed it with the casting. And just to see Marion Maisie. Marion Maisie was one of the greats. Her and her husband, Jason Daniele, have a album together where they sang a couple songs from Passion, and that is a beautiful album as well. Yeah. I don't know. I could nerd out about this all day, but
this felt nice and concise.
What?
This summary, this overlook.
I felt, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It's because I knew it's a weird show and I didn't want to get wandery. So I was like, I'm going to make this, I'm going to like write a concise thing.
Hell yeah.
I like really worked hard on my plot.
I'm very proud of you.
I know he doesn't know the show.
Yep.
And it's a weird one, so I want to convey it.
And I appreciate it.
And don't be turned off by the plot. I know it's weird.
Oh, no. That sounds like something I would eat up.
So good.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. I thought it was weird too. And then I like watched the whole thing, I think on YouTube, and I was like, oh, this is a gorgeous show.
Yeah.
Gorgeous. It's gorgeous.
Sweet deal. Love to hear it.
Yeah.
Everyone, go watch Passion. Go listen to Passion.
Listen to Passion. Watch Passion.
Go have passion.
Have passion.
Yeah.
Eat your heart out, Fosca.
Hey, what's something you're passionate about?
Donna Murphy's portrayal of Fosca.
Okay.
What's something you're passionate about?
I don't know, like Legos or something. Just not the vibe I was going for here.
Legos.
Anyway,
you know, fun fact: I have never played with a Lego a day in my life.
I know you haven't. We're gonna work on that. That's gonna be a goal of the new year.
I was having this conversation the other day with a coworker, and I was like, you know, there's a lot of Legos in my home because of my roommate, but I've never touched a Lego. Like I've never played with one.
Yeah. I think we'll work on that because I know you hate crafting and putting things together like that, but
no, I'm a puzzler. I love puzzles.
Oh, okay, great.
So I feel like I would actually probably enjoy
it. Can be very relaxing.
That one craft I did, it was too minutia. It was like it needed like one notch bigger.
Danny was gifted a little book nook for Christmas. And at one point I was sitting on the couch and he storms out of his room and he's like, I hate crafting. I've been working on this for 9 hours. Everything is so small.
The book nook, I really love it. It was such a good gift.
Oh,
and
for sure.
I love it now that it's put together.
Yeah.
It really was like a little, they disassembled just a notch too much.
Understood.
I was like, guys, come on.
Yeah.
Like, we got to cut this in half. Like, I love puzzles. I'm a 1,000-piece puzzle person, but.
Heard.
Well, the book nook.
There we go.
It's tricky.
It
takes a lot of fine motor skills.
We'll work on the Lego situation.
We'll work on the Lego stuff.
Yeah.
Maybe we can find like a Sondheim Lego set.
We won't. Those don't exist. They do have Wicked sets now. They're very much geared towards children, but
aren't all Legos geared or no?
No, some of them are geared towards adults.
Really?
Yeah, let's.
Oh, he's about to pull out a Lego set.
Let me see what the age range on this baby is.
If you're in Brennan's room, you're never too far from a Lego set.
I just have a couple of unbuilt ones, and we just happen to be sitting next to one. Age range, Lego The Office.
Oh my God, did you get that for Christmas?
I got this for Christmas several years ago, and I still haven't built it. 18 plus. 18 plus.
This is so perfect for you.
Thank you. It's just very square, so I don't really have anywhere to put it at the moment.
Yeah, I was gonna say this looks like it would take up a lot of room. So you have to like put on every piece individually. Is there like a manual, or are you just freeballing it?
There's instructions.
Okay.
Oh my God, that was crazy. We digress. folks, as always, if there's a certain show you want to hear us talk about, you can let us know by finding us over on the Patreon. That is patreon.com/BA to Broadway. We have a bunch of fun bonus content on there as well. So come check us out. As always, you can find us on most social media platforms at BA to Broadway. You can find me at Brennan Stefanik.
You can find me at DSauls.
And until next week, folks,
Bye.
From BA to Broadway is created, produced, and edited by Brennan Stefanik, music by Dylan Kaufman, and cover art by Jordan Vongsithi.